Hello, welcome to Caffeinated Cast-Ons over here on YouTube. I'm Therese, the face behind Caffeinated Cast-Ons. I am a North Texas-based knitter. I've been knitting for almost 3 years now, and it's a fun time. So I have my coffee, which I just got in. I'll go over what kind of coffee I'm drinking here in a second. But be sure to subscribe. It's a fun time. If you're familiar with Ravelry project pages, this is just a video version of that. So I share what I'm working on, knitting goals, all the good stuff. So yeah, let's get into it. The coffee I'm drinking, I do Trade Coffee Co. It's a subscription, so I get a different coffee each month based on like my brewing preferences. I do a pour over. Not sponsored or anything, but this is, hold on, before I show what coffee I'm drinking, I think the last bag that I showed that I got last month was called Cold Front, and it was right whenever a cold front was rolling in. This one is called Dune, and we're gonna go see Dune this weekend, so I just thought that was so funny. But this is Santa Rosa. It is roasted, I want to say, in California. Yeah, roasted in Santa Barbara, California. But it's really good. I'm on my second cup of coffee for the day. Oh, my hair's all over the place. I need a haircut. Yeah, I'm on my second cup of coffee. Pretty delicious. I do have a link. I think you get like a free bag of coffee. That's in the description box below. Again, not sponsored. Everyone gets a code to share a bag. It's just a link. That way you can get a free bag of coffee. Let's get into some finished objects because I feel like I was really on a roll this past week. First finished object is I finished my square for my knitting class. I am taking essentially a year-long knitting class at my local yarn store. I say local, it's really not local. And each month we make a square, and it's learning different knitting techniques, types of stitches, and at the end you seam it all together and you have a huge afghan. And so I finished. It's is squished a little bit just because it is a ribbing, but this is a faux cable. Look how beautiful that is. This one was really good. I really enjoyed it, and so that is finished object number 1. If you've been watching, you know I actually am behind on my squares because you're supposed to do a square each month. I do have 2 other squares that are on the needles that I am working on, which I'll get to that here in a little bit. But I'm super glad that I finished this one fairly quickly because next month we start doing 2 squares at once. So I really wanted to make sure I wasn't terribly behind and that my needles were freed up, which reminds me, I also need to check if I have a second pair of needles that in the size that I need to make sure I can do this. Oh, I need to check that today so I can make sure I can get those. But yeah, finished object number 1. I am super pleased with how this came out. The color, the texture, it is perfect. Like oh, that looks so good. I'm so excited. This next one isn't a finished object per se. So a while back, I think it was November or December, I was sick and spent like a week in bed, essentially with a really bad like sinus infection cold thing going on. And I made a bunch of washcloths. I think there was like a dozen of them. And I gifted a couple of them, but the others that I finished had all the ends still needed to be woven in. And that's what I did this past week. I just wove in a bunch of ends And these are all scrappy washcloths, so just little bits of whatever yarn I had left from other washcloths that I made. And so these can be used for face cloths, use them around the house, to wipe down counters. And it's all the same pattern. These last two have holes in the edging. Same pattern, just with like a different modification that you could do. The rest of these don't have the eyelets at the edge. It's a free pattern. I'll leave it linked down below in the description box. There's 3 versions of it. The one I did the majority of these in is the 3rd version. I think it's just simple washcloth, no holes or something like that. But yeah, really good. So I finally woven the ends of those, so now I can put them away to be used. So that was pretty fun. So just wanted to throw that in there. Okay, sorry, I have like notes that I'm crossing off to make sure I talk about everything that I want to. These next 2 objects I'm going to talk about are going to be between finished objects and whips. And that is 2 different pairs of socks that I'm working on. So the finished object part is I have finished sock 1 of both these different socks, and the whip part will be finishing sock 2. So this one I'm so excited. First finished sock 1 is my Find the Joy socks. You guys, last week, I've been talking about these socks for quite some time. I casted them on, when did I cast this on? Thanksgiving Day. And it is the Crazy Sock Lady's newest sock pattern. It had been a while since she put out a sock pattern, and they're so beautiful. I was stuck after the gusset decreases for so long. So this, hang on, let me get this stitch marker. This stitch marker, you can't really see it that well. It's kind of on there weird, but it's a little ice cream cone. But that's where I was for the longest time, like since the last time I picked these up. And I finished the sock. Let me put it on a blocker. I put it on a blocker and it looks even better. Oh, look how beautiful. Like, it's such a beautiful texture. I can't get over it. Oh my goodness. So, as I mentioned, this is the Find the Joy socks by the Crazy Sock Lady. And I cast them on Thanksgiving, finished sock 1, I don't know, earlier this week. So sock 2 is still on the move, and I'll show that here in a little bit when I talk about my whips. So beautiful. Actually, I'll go ahead and talk about these socks independently. So I started the second one. I think I am almost done with the leg. I think I'm in my last pattern repeat, and then I can start the heel. So that one is going to, but I am so glad that I decided to pick these socks up. I really flew through them the last half. And it's funny because the last square that I did for my class was all about cabling. And I picked these socks back up, and it's kind of essentially what you're doing with this stitch. I think she called this stitch something else, like left cross or right cross. But like it clicked immediately after that class. I was like, oh my gosh, I get it now. And I just flew through. And a plus, I already woven my ends on this sock. So that made me feel even more like accomplished that I have that done already as well. So finished object is a half a finished object. And then the whip part is I've almost done with the leg. And then I can start the heel. But yeah. Oh my gosh, I could just hold this up and talk about it forever. The colors, everything, just so beautiful. I can't